So Season 2 of Diablo 4 has brought with it a ton of ridiculous farms, and today I want to go over what seems to be one of the best, and this is going to be the Suck. And this is going to take place in the new Blood Harvest event, so you can do this at level 1 and on any world tier. And once you get into the Blood Harvest, the main thing you're going to be looking for is this little obelisk called a vampiric siphon. And you should be able to easily find this because it should have the little white box objective marker for any of the small little objectives in Blood Harvest, so just follow those around until you find one of these. And this doesn't cost any resource to start this little mini event. So once you start it, it's going to spawn a red ring, and for this event to continue, you or one other player have to stay within that red circle. If everybody leaves that red circle, the event's done and it stops spawning enemies. And all this mini event is going to be is it's going to continuously spawn waves and waves of enemies. And the main limiting factor of how long you can stay in the circle is how long you can keep yourself alive, because this siphon is going to continuously siphon health from you, and the health it takes is going to grow continuously as you're in the circle. So at a certain point, you're legitimately not going to be able to stay in the circle any longer. You're either going to have to leave the circle or you're just going to die. In some of the footage you'll see I'm legitimately just spamming potions over and over, and even that wasn't able to keep me alive at a certain point. But where this gets absurd is that the longer you stay in the circle, the more enemies it's going to spawn, and the more difficult enemies it's going to spawn. So at the start, it's just going to be waves of a bunch of bats and weaker enemies. Then it's going to start to spawn elites. Then it's going to start to spawn blood seekers. It'll spawn one blood seeker, and then as you keep staying in it, it'll spawn groups of blood seekers. Now, blood seekers are so ridiculous because they have a very high chance to drop seeker keys when you kill them. Seeker keys are incredibly strong to just run around Blood Harvest to open up all the chests. They give ridiculous amounts of resources, and the seekers in Blood Harvest have a very high chance to drop legendary items. In fact, in a bunch of the runs I've done at these siphons, every single seeker has dropped a legendary item. So they're ridiculous for gear, they're ridiculous for seeker keys, and because there are so many enemies and a bunch of elites and seekers spawning, you will also be getting tons and tons of blood lures, which is the other new currency for Blood Harvest. Both blood lures and seeker keys are just ridiculous. The faster you can farm these, the more additional loot you can go get. You can either use blood lures to spawn in more seekers, or you can go spawn in the bosses of Blood Harvest that I went over in another video that also drop a ridiculous amount of loot. And this is still incredibly strong to do solo, but if you can get a group and go do this, it's even stronger. Because first off, you guys can enter and leave the circle as long as one person stays in it. So someone can leave, heal up, go back in, and you guys can try to alternate, which will allow you to keep the circle up for a longer amount of time, thus giving you a lot more blood seekers a lot more quickly. But also the rate at which enemies spawn also seems to be dependent on how quickly you're killing the enemies. So if you have 4 people there, you're killing enemies much more quickly, meaning you're going to get a lot more spawns much more quickly, allowing you to get a lot more gear and a lot more resources. But that's the entirety of this farm. It's utterly ridiculous, and it's kind of reminiscent of Destiny loot cave farms. It's just not in a cave. You're just standing in one area, spam killing groups and groups of enemies, and getting ridiculous amounts of loot and currencies. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.